The movie begins with Rainer Wegner, a high school teacher, driving his vintage sedan through a quiet suburb. With the windows down, he sings along to rock and roll tunes, enjoying the peaceful start to his day. Upon reaching the school, he exchanges greetings with his wife and colleague, Anka Wegner, who mentions that the school director has been trying to reach him. Rainer goes to her office and shockingly learns that he has been assigned to teach an autocracy class, despite his expertise in anarchy. He expresses his concerns about the same, but the director can't help him with the matter as they are already short-staffed. In the next scene, a student named Marco silently slips into the theater room, careful not to disturb his friends and girlfriend Caro, who are rehearsing a play. However, an argument ensues on stage when one of the participants messes up his dialogue. After this, Marco and Caro discuss for a while and decide to join the autocracy class. They believe it will be perfect for their project week. Later that night, the students enjoy a lively party, which involves drinking and dancing. Behind the main building, three friends, Kevin, Sinan, and Bomber, are spending some private time together. Another guy named Tim also shows up and offers them some weed. "You fellas feel like token?" The following morning, Rainer reluctantly heads to the high school to teach his first autocracy class. He adopts a unique teaching style, allowing his students to address him by his first name. This way, they feel comfortable and share their opinions about autocracy. Most of the students say it is impossible to imagine a dictatorship in modern Germany. Next, the class discusses their project week activity. Intrigued by his students' views, Rainer proposes a role-playing experiment to demonstrate the vibes around tyrannical governments. He then rearranges the seating of the students and appoints himself as the leader for the role play. Getting into his character, Rainer insists that the entire class address him with respect, using the title Herr Wegner instead of his first name. He also imposes rules such as requiring permission to speak and standing while talking. They must also smash like and subscribe to every video he posts. One of the students, named Mona, raises objections to Rainer's methods, saying things are going too far. Kevin also opts out of the experiment, as he doesn't want to be a part of all things. He asks Sinan and Bomber to join him, but they refuse due to fear of losing grades. The next day, when Rainer asks the students to stand up for a physical warm-up session, they comply without hesitation. He then shows the power of unity by demonstrating how their synchronized marching could unsettle the anarchy class below them. He addresses the students of anarchy class as their enemies, instigating a sense of hatred. Rainer also rearranges the seating, strategically placing students with lower grades alongside those with higher grades, with the aim of fostering mutual learning within the group. It will be easier for the morons to copy this way. To everyone's surprise, he also permits students to copy answers. I was joking, but he also permits students to copy answers from their classmates during exams if it will benefit their future. Mona again objects to this, feeling embarrassed by the disparity between good and poor students. However, Rainer argues that there are no poor students, only students with poor grades. The class continues to expand, with two students from the anarchy class expressing interest in joining the autocracy class. In an effort to promote unity and dissolve class distinction, Rainer suggests that all students wear white shirts and jeans as their uniform. The majority of students agree and assist each other in adhering to the dress code. However, Mona disagrees once again, arguing that it eliminates individuality. As a result, she decides to leave the group project. Eventually, the class agrees to wear white shirts and jeans as their uniform. Some students voice concerns about affordability for the new uniform, even though there's nothing cheaper than white shirts and jeans, but the others offer their spare shirts, allowing them to proceed with the uniform. Rainer is pleased with this progression of his experiment. On their way to school the next day, Marco questions Caro about why she's not wearing the white shirt. She gets angry and asserts that she doesn't need to explain herself. However, Marco argues that her attitude reflects the egoism discussed by Rainer. Later, when they enter the classroom, Caro feels isolated for not wearing the uniform. That's her own fault. No one wants to talk with her. Meanwhile, Rainer arrives with new transfer students, announcing that Mona has switched classes. With the group expanding, Dennis, the leader of the theater class, suggests giving the group a name. Everyone then starts proposing different names, but Caro's hand is ignored when she raises it. As she remains the only one with her hand raised, the class falls silent until Rainer finally acknowledges her. Marco's suggestion of the wave receives the most votes, while Caro's suggestion, the changers, only receives her own vote. Not because she's an outlier, but because that's a really terrible name. Now that they are united, Rainer encourages his students to contribute to the group. Sinan is then tasked with creating the group's logo, while another student creates the MySpace page, dating this movie instantly. As all of this is happening, Caro continues to feel feel excluded by everyone, including her teacher. Later, some anarchy students try to bother Tim while he's riding his bicycle home. They harass him and call him stupid names. However, Sinan and Bomber immediately arrive to their friend's rescue and defend him. This showcases the growing solidarity of the Wave. On the other hand, Raynor starts to relish the unwavering respect and loyalty he receives from his students. His influence over them is slowly strengthening. However, his integrity among his colleagues, including his wife, who is also a teacher, begins to deteriorate. It remains unclear if Raynor fully understands the implications of his experiment, or how it is affecting him personally. In the next scene, one of the theater students, named Lisa, informs Caro that she has been replaced from the club. Now, someone else has been brought in as the main character. This enrages Caro, and her hatred towards the Wave grows even more. She tries to argue with her friend, but Lisa calls her selfish and storms off. That night, the students become further immersed in the Wave as they begin spray painting their logo throughout the city. Kevin is accepted back into the group, and the members are thrilled to be part of something greater, something they can fight for. During their act of vandalism, Marco receives a call from Caro, but Lisa convinces him to ignore it. The following day, Bomber suggests doing a salute to further solidify their group's identity. Raynor knows it is a step too far, but he still approves it. Later, when Caro arrives at school, she finds her younger brother blocking non-member students while doing the Wave salute. Surprisingly, the salute is not to stand up and throw your hands in the air. Turns out that he has also become a part of the group and is now preventing anyone without a white shirt from entering. Worried about the negative influence of the Wave, Caro privately talks to Raynor. She claims that the non-members are being harassed to the point that it's almost bullying. She then urges him to stop the movement, but he refuses to consider her request. Raynor instead tries to persuade her to rejoin the group and assures her that she can participate without wearing the white shirt. However, Caro claims that she'll never be a part of it. She is now hell-bent on disbanding the Wave as it has become uncontrollable. Later, the director of the high school summons Raynor and praises his teaching technique. However, he warns him that some of his colleagues are viewing it as problematic. The next day, Marco invites Caro to a party with his friends. He claims that it will be a great opportunity to blend in with the group. However, Caro straightforwardly rejects the invitation, knowing that they will discriminate against the non-members. She then tries to convince Marco that the movement has gone too far by showing him examples of intolerance experienced by other students on social media. Unfortunately, Marco refuses to acknowledge them and mentions that the Wave is important to him as it provides him a sense of belonging. That evening, when Raynor is at home, Tim shows up and offers to be his bodyguard. Raynor welcomes him but explains that he doesn't require security in his daily life. This further strains his already tense relationship with his wife, who believes the experiment has crossed the line. Later that night, the Wave holds an exclusive party where Marco and Lisa engage in intimate moments. Meanwhile, Caro prints out campaign materials against the group, scattering them throughout the school halls. The next morning, Raynor gets two surprises: a newspaper report highlighting the Wave's acts of vandalism, and Tim sleeping outside his doorstep. The news article enrages Raynor, and so he decides to confront his students. Meanwhile, Marco and the rest of the group become angry upon seeing the anti-Wave campaign started by Caro. They urge Marco to talk to her and address the situation. At school, Raynor expresses his anger towards the students for their participation in vandalism acts. He then assigns them an essay task, asking them to reflect on their experiences as Wave members and the consequences of their actions. In the next scene, a water polo competition is about to commence, but Bomber refuses entry to Caro and Mona because they are not wearing white shirts associated with the Wave. However, will they recover from missing out on water polo? Regardless, the girls sneak their way into the venue through the back door. They then throw the campaign-related pamphlets to the audience. Meanwhile, Sinan, who is part of the polo team, initiates a fight with an opponent. This is because he has started resenting everyone who's not associated with the Wave. Fortunately, Raynor intervenes and stops them before anything serious happens. When Raynor returns home that evening, he finds his enraged wife waiting for him. She demands that he immediately put an end to the Wave and accuses him of manipulating the students for his own agenda. However, Raynor doesn't like her tone, and he ends up mocking his wife's reliance on antidepressants. This obviously hurts the poor woman, and she storms out of the house. Raynor's method acting has become more unhinged than Jared Leto's. On the other hand, Marco confronts Caro about the anti-Wave flyers. He claims that she's trying to incite trouble amongst the students with her negative agenda. When she doesn't respond, he also slaps her hard across the face. This causes Caro's mouth to bleed, and Marco finally realizes that he has turned into a monster. So, he rushes to Raynor's house and pleads for the dissolution of the group. He says that the Wave has transformed him in ways he never anticipated. Raynor seems to empathize with him and promises to deal with the situation tomorrow, probably by killing Marco. The next day in class, Raynor gathers all the Wave members. He reads their essays, which predominantly highlight the positive aspects and the strong sense of community opportunity they experienced as part of the wave. He then delivers a passionate speech expressing his deep concerns about the state of Germany and the pressing need for change. He firmly believes that the wave is the solution to the societal problems they face and declares that the group will continue to make history. The speech leaves Marco fuming, as Rainer had promised to dissolve the group. In a fit of rage, he confronts him in front of the class and calls him a manipulator. However, he is quickly silenced by the other members, who call him a traitor. Rainer then commands his students to bring Marco to the stage, and they obediently comply with his orders. After this, Rainer asks what they should do with Marco, but everyone remains silent. In response, he poses a shocking question. Will they kill Marco if he asks them to do so? Whoa. He draws a parallel to dictatorships, where blind obedience is expected as the students begin to awaken to the reality of their actions. Rainer reminds them of the initial question posed at the beginning of the week. Could a dictatorship arise again in Germany? It becomes clear that Rainer was only testing the extreme nature of the wave, using the gathering as a way to bring the negative aspects to light. He then announces that the wave is disbanded, officially. Many students feel guilty upon realizing that they have supported a dangerous ideology. However, Tim, who believes the wave has taken on a life of its own, suddenly pulls out a handgun. He refuses to accept that the wave is dismissed and doesn't want to lose everything he has worked for. Bomber tries to intervene, claiming that the gun is just a toy, but Tim proves him wrong by shooting him. He then tragically commits the unthinkable, asserting that he'd rather die than live without the wave. In the final scene, Rainer collapses to his knees, staring blankly at the consequences of his own pride and recklessness. The entire class is left traumatized, and they finally realize how wrong they were. The movie ends with Rainer getting arrested by the police, Bomber being rushed to the hospital, and Marco and Caro reconciling. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.